Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. This is David Krueger, the Creator's Apprentice. For those of you who are new to the channel, I have been in the sphere of personal development and working with Kevin Trudeau for the last several years. This channel is my effort to share some of what I know and to help bring some of this information to the world and to anyone who might be looking for it. Kevin Trudeau, for those of you who don't know, is the infomercial king. He is a New York Times best-selling author. He is also the former chairman of an elite secret society called the Brotherhood, where he and other members learn at the highest level how to use their minds to create their reality, how to become the very person that wants to make their dreams come true. Kevin has made it his life's work to create a foundation, to create a system where anyone can learn this information. And we are very blessed to work with him. Kevin has been offering, in a very limited capacity, something called fly on the wall training, something I and many others have done in this fly on the wall training. You go to his house and spend time with him for 24 hours and observe him and observe exactly what his habits are, exactly what he does to create multi-million dollar businesses, to create happiness, to create success in his life. My guest for this episode is an old friend of mine, Amy Nicholas. She's also a GIN member, and she's been involved in the Kevin Trudeau sphere for a number of years. So, Amy, first of all, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Thanks, David. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Before we jump into it, tell us a little bit about Amy Nicholas, about who you were before you walked. We're going to center it on the fly on the wall experience, but tell us who you were before you went to his house that day.
So I had heard Your Wish is Your Command back in 2017 and used the principles from that audio to start manifesting dreams, goals, houses, cars, motorcycles, material things, And then I decided when I knew Kevin was out that I was going to join GIN in 2022. So that was the beginning of the club for me. And just about hitting 4 years almost on my, involvement with the club. Also joined the fan club, Kevin Trudeau fan club. Was actually a part of that before he even got out, and really just dove into the material, like really
Okay.
just soaked it like a sponge.
Okay.
And I was, looking for something, and like he says, when you're looking, the teacher will appear. So
Okay.
yeah, it was
Okay.
kind of my life before, and then just leading up to my actual fly in the wall. I was just past the 3-year mark in gin. I had done several of the processes Kevin offers. I had done many events in person and watching, online. And I had passed my level 5 test.
Okay.
So I was a level 5 gin member by the time I got to his house. And I had just
Okay.
come back from the um, partner convention as
Okay.
well.
So, for those of you watching who don't know, when you become a level 5 GIN member, you have joined the Global Information Network. You have engaged in hundreds of hours at that point of audio training, um, taking you up certain levels. You have taken tests on this training. You have read at least 15 basic books, and you have studied, like studying for the bar exam. And you've heard, hundreds of hours of Kevin putting training, to succeed and manifest in your ears. And so you have gone through all of this. You are a level 5 member. You get to his house. So I guess my first question is, was there any point with Kevin where you thought this wasn't what I expected? Did anything surprise you? Because you had heard so much training. Anything about him personally?
Think I was surprised by anything. It was more of just more insight into how
Okay.
he operates.
Okay.
Yeah, like the complete peace of mind and ease that he kind of goes about his day. Kind of, I had a different impression before I got there that maybe he was a little bit more like go, go, go.
Okay.
And seeing him actually in person and working and stuff, it was more relaxed, more like take a lot of breaks, reset, start something new, knock that out. It was just very, he was structured, but it was in a loose way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That actually you just led into my next question I had written down, which was from your perspective, tell me a little bit about Kevin's operating system, about how he goes through the day and what it looks like.
The best thing I gathered, like on the second day, because got there in the afternoon on the first day, and then the second day I get to see his morning start, was he was very relaxed and calm and at peace going into the morning routine and not instantly jumping into work like you would think somebody running multiple businesses would do. He's like,
Okay.
on his phone, he's casually checking in on things, he's, just relaxed.
Okay.
No meetings right away, plenty of
Hmm.
time for that. And he told me, he does like his meditation in the morning.
Hmm.
And I didn't see him do that, but that's what he told me. And I liked the way he kind of just eased into the day. So like there's no stress. And that was really, I think, imperative to pick up on because you have this impression, especially, learning from other success driven people, is that, you have to be in this certain frame of mind all the time of like grinding and hustling and working hard. And he gets way more done being in that mental state,
Yeah.
98% of the time.
Yeah. Do you think that he can like get to that productivity that other people get grinding and hustling hard, but by being calm and just focused? Did you notice that with the way he operates?
Yeah. I think it's all from a belief system that if you
Okay.
believe you have to be that person, then yes, you will have to work hard and put in long, long hours and be frustrated and stressed and all that. But he doesn't believe that he has to do that. He has a knowingness that the
Hmm.
universe is going to take care of stuff, whether he's actively working on it or not.
Okay. Okay. Great. Were there any small like details or anything like that? Something maybe that would have seemed insignificant that turned out to be more important than you realized? Anything like that?
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those things that's hard to put into words unless you do it, but the
Mm.
experience of the energy in the house and
Ugh.
just feeling like the entire 24 hours I was there, I picked up on all of that calm, relaxed energy, and I felt very much like I was in this energetic bubble the whole
Mhm.
time I was there. Didn't have to
Mhm.
worry about anything. I felt like, the passing of time was irrelevant, and he just, his flow state just kind of like transferred to me. And then I also was aware, I'm taking notes and looking around, was very aware of how much art and sculpture and like ornate type of detail was in the house. And I felt without ever him saying it till later, I felt that it was all very intentional. Everything
Mhm.
was intentionally placed. Rooms were intentionally very structured and organized, flowers over here, painting here, sculpture here, piano here. It's like it's all meant to be aesthetically pleasing, but also had like an energy around the house.
Yeah, he's very deliberate about the energy of the house, and it really makes a difference, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a comment that I think everybody has had about. I mean, seriously, it's like you follow Kevin and you listen to Patton on leadership and about or you follow the Limitless podcast that's available on YouTube, just as this show is, and sometimes he gets a little tough on you, and he's like, sometimes you got to don't be a loser and don't and so you're expecting a certain thing from Kevin, and it's very zen and
Yeah.
peaceful. His home, it's really something, um, which is not what a lot of people expect. Um, a question about discipline. Kevin talks about discipline. A lot of success gurus talk about discipline. How did you see discipline exercised, by Kevin? You were there with him for an entire day. You probably saw with all the relaxation, you probably saw a lot of production go on too. So
Yeah.
what did discipline and focus look like?
He's very what's the word? He's very like meticulous about, okay, I'm working on this task from a list.
Okay.
Everything is written down, everything is logged in some way. And what I actually learned that was new insight for me was he's not just writing a to-do list for the day that's like five or six things. It's things written out specifically in steps, even. Like if you have to take care of an errand that day and it involves multiple steps, he's writing the steps out. For example, like say he had to do laundry, he's writing
Hmm.
out, put the laundry in the wash, take it out and put it in the dryer, then hang the clothes. It was like all these things were written down and he explained it to me as these were small wins every
Hmm.
time he was checking something off. And I never thought to be that detailed about my day to day. And it's still kind of an adjustment to like get that detailed sometimes, but I understand at least why he does that.
Yeah.
And he's disciplined about like, no distractions. He starts a new cycle, he calls it, and he's, phones on silent, no dings or notifications on the laptop. He's like 100% I'm here in present time. And, people know not to bother him when he's,
Hmm.
on something. Then he'll take a break and he'll get up or go do something he needs to do real quick, talk to the butler or something. And, it's like little tasks that he can take care of in between those cycles. But it's again, it's all kind of like a really high form of productivity because he's not stopping in the middle of something and then being like, oh, wait, I need to do. If he thought of something while he was working, he would pull out his cassette recorder and speak it, or he would, write it down. So,
Amy, I'm gonna reiterate just some of what you just said because you hit on so much gold right there. So many key things. People ask. There's a guy in my school group, I think, who just asked a question. I just saw him. "Hey, is there just a way to get rich? Is there just a show me like a step to do it?" And I'm like, here we go. Okay. So to reiterate, start a cycle, complete a cycle, short cycles, check it off and celebrate the win. Boom. That's one thing. So now you get this momentum. You get like a cascade of one win after another. You get into a momentum cycle. Complete focus. Put the phone away. Turn it down and don't let it interrupt you. That's huge right there. Most of us are like getting the phone up and we're looking at social media. I mean, I'm kind of bad. I'm still conquering that myself, if I'm being
yeah.
honest. So focus, start and complete cycles, celebrate the win. I think most people would be shocked what they could get done if they just didn't get distracted.
Yep.
You see him, you sit and watch him, and he's got the same 30 minutes or the same 60 minutes that you do, and you just watch what he gets done in that time. Or yeah, and the other thing you said, he gets an idea, he just pulls out the recorder. And in Kevin's case, he doesn't do it on his iPhone with the voice memo. That's, too much. He needs the physical touch. It's an old tape recorder that he has to go find these things. They're hard to find now, because he can just tactile. He knows right where the record switch is, boom, records it, and then he goes back over it later. So yeah, that was some gold right there. So for those of you who are always wondering, well, what do you do to get rich? These kinds of productivity hacks, getting more productivity out of yourself. So yeah, thank you for that. Um, um, thank you for yeah. If you had to name the one principle that explains everything you saw Kevin do, what might it be? How might you encapsulate it?
I think he does everything with the feeling of like he's just emanating like love and gratitude. It's just, and I think this is where the
Mm,
peace mindset comes from, is that whether it seems like a challenging task or an irritating task that he might have to confront, he's still in that mode of operandus where it's like his being doesn't change. He's just like, I'm flowing from this state. And like you mentioned, people might have an impression of him as being kind of like hard edged and, success driven and all that. But I think there's just a lot of more dimensions to him when you see him and you're around him in his
yeah,
home in person for that length of time. Because
yeah,
if I'd only gone to events and seen him, I might have still had that same impression.
sure. Yeah, yeah, I think generally it's human nature. We want to put people in a box. Okay, that person, he's this kind of person. She's that kind of person. And Kevin definitely challenges that. Yeah,
Yeah.
just by virtue of who he is, it's like a wonderful thing. I guess and this is an interesting lead into the next question I had for you. Is there anything that surprised you about Kevin as a person? Not as the success guru, not as the multimillionaire, not as a brand, but just as a human being hanging out in the house. Anything about him personally that surprised you?
No, not necessarily about him. I think it was more I was surprised at the culmination of, like, the intersection of our lives. Like,
Mhm.
having listened to him for almost a decade and, going to events, seeing him at events, talking to him in person, and having, brief interactions, and then kind of, like, having this cognition moment where he's driving his Rolls Royce, I'm in the passenger seat, and we're having a one-on-one conversation, and I'm thinking, if this isn't the material put to work, I don't know what is, because how far I came from thinking when I first heard Your Wish Is Your Command, "Oh, it'd be cool to meet him."
Mhm.
Like, that would be cool one day. And thinking that was, a ways off. And then it was like 5 years later, I'd meet him. But then to go from that interaction and seeing him at events and such to being like, I'm sitting next to him, having an actual conversation and able to ask questions and things like that. That was like not so much a surprise, but a little bit of like a wow, like this dream or whatever that I'd had to get to know him in some form or fashion,
Mhm.
went beyond what I thought I was gonna actually experience.
Okay. Wow, that's
Yeah.
great. How does Kevin treat the people around him? His team, his staff, the people in his orbit, and what does that tell you about who he is? How does he treat people?
He's always saying, like, something positive about somebody. He's always, uplifting people, whether they're in the room or not, and he treats everybody, like, very, like, courteous and respectful, and one thing that stood out to me was there was somebody he was going to do business with that he decided to go with a different vendor instead of this person. He actually took the time to call that vendor and say, "I'm sorry, we're not gonna use you." Then just, that extra step of, like, courteousness, whereas a lot of
Mhm.
people will just ghost you,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, they go
try
yeah,
to
they
follow
ghost.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just not gonna call you back. Yeah, so just taking that time, that extra that courtesy and that class and that
Mm.
respect for that person.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's important. Um, which leads right into my next question, and I'm sure I know what you're gonna say, but this is for everybody watching. Kevin has been and can sometimes still be a polarizing figure in the world, the news. He's had controversy around him. And so, after all of the studies you've done in gin and spending 24 hours with Kevin, can you tell me in a few words what his critics get wrong?
I just think people are quick to believe the hype and lies that are across the internet without actually doing any kind of research.
Mhm.
And it's kind of hard to picture what they're perceiving him as, because I just got so much value from his
Mhm.
content. And, I was listening to Yours Is Your Command for a long time before I even knew like what he looked like, where he was from or anything like that. It was no
Yeah.
judgment of him as a, physical being. And then I remember just kind of thinking, okay, well, I've listened to the audios and I've had things work in my life. And I was like at a crossroads where I wasn't fully trusting, I guess, to join Jin yet. So I
Sure.
said, let me go meet him in person. I had an opportunity to meet him in 22 before I joined the club. And I said, if I go and I meet him and it just feels like in alignment, then, I'll join the club. And I loved that there was no, I think people just perceive him as a salesperson all the time,
Mhm.
24/7. There was
Mhm.
not one mention of joining the club by him or anybody that was in the club in that event. And no sales pressure, no like, hey, you should join our club. It's great. Nobody was trying to sell me on it.
Yeah.
But my interactions with Kevin in an actual conversation with him, and he hugged me, and I just walked away with complete knowingness that he was who he said he was. And I think when you're around a person in person, if you had any doubts, that's really the place and time to make that like judgment. So a
Mhm.
lot of people are watching him online and YouTube and things like that, and they're judging without ever meeting the person, just like they do many, many other people online.
Yeah.
And this is where social media gets it all wrong, because you think you know somebody just from that.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, Amy, as you know, I lived with Kevin for a number of years. And I would see firsthand. I would see, and this was when his trial was still going on, and he was still in court, and I would see the things that were being written about him by people who didn't know him that were clearly false. And here he is right in front of me. I can see the reality. And it made me wonder, do we know the truth about anything or anyone? Because that must apply. I mean, that must apply to everyone, public figures, Donald Trump. I mean, the things we hear about the people we like and don't like, how much of it is actually true?
Yeah.
You know, and just seeing that just with him, I was like, how many other people out there who are reported on by the media are completely smeared, completely distorted? It was a very powerful lesson to learn, and I would say that to everyone watching this, believe half of what you see and even less of what you hear.
Yeah.
It's really the truth. You what you know is what you know, and that's what you know firsthand from people.
You have to consider that a lot of these people making content that's demeaning or talking down about somebody is often to boost their own views.
Of
It's
course.
controversial content that they're using. They're
Yep.
slapping somebody's name in there. Let me find something wrong with this person so I can get a bunch of views.
Yeah, it's like a big game. Let's slam somebody I've never met, and I'll get the views. Yeah,
Yep.
it's kind of yeah, it's kind of sad. So you left the house with a lot of insights and new eyes in effect. What's the one thing you started doing differently immediately the very next day?
So my initial focus when I went to fly on the wall was to figure out a way that, well, and to ask him questions about what I'm focused on right now, like what my obsession is, which is trading
Okay.
stocks. And when I left there, I said, let me just compile all these notes into a write up because I want to lock in everything that I think I've gained here quite a bit. I had many, many pages of notes, and I thought to just write out my experience with pen and paper so that I would, kind of cement that. And there was some things that as I'm writing, I'm thinking like, oh yeah, I really wrote some things down to actually like work on when I got home, like tasks and things as I'm with him. It was almost like
Yeah.
getting ideas while I was there in his presence. And then I thought after I wrote that synopsis of how it went, okay, let's start looking at that list of things that I wrote down as potential,
Mhm.
let me work on this.
Okay. All right. Good. Is there perhaps a belief that you had when you walked in that house that you didn't have when you walked out?
It was something that kind of came together several days after, and it had to do with like the way I perceived what I was doing with trading and thinking it had to be a certain way. It had to be had to be doing day trading and scalp trading and very fast momentum things that were
Okay.
stressful.
Okay.
And when I left, and Kevin had said some things to me during my one on one with him. And when I left, I actually kind of went through this period of like really considering like what am I doing and am I enjoying and can there be a better way instead of just the status quo. This
Hmm.
is how it is. Suck it up. Keep trying. Try harder.
Trying
When
to,
I,
yeah.
yeah, when I let that sort of, culminate in my brain for a few days, all of a sudden, light bulb moment. And I'm like, let me start following somebody else's strategy for trading. And this guy, I switched gears from following somebody for like 8 or 9 months to switching to a totally different strategy that was seemingly impossible to me because it was way less stressful. I could potentially make way more money doing it. And I didn't have to take, 100 trades a month. I could
Okay.
take like 2 to 4 trades, which was kind of like, really? That's possible? Like, and you could still make money. So it really shifted the way I perceived what I was doing from getting there to, a few days after getting home.
How is your trading going now?
I became profitable within a couple months after that, whereas I wasn't before.
Okay, so red to black, that's huge.
Yeah, that was a
And
huge milestone because I was doing it for 10 months and
okay,
still, hadn't hit my turnaround. And that was the month 10. I tried this new strategy like literally like the next week after my fly on the wall. And the very first trade I do, I get a win. I was like, "Oh, that's cool, let me keep trying." It was like, everything had kinda turned around and in such a seemingly short period of time, but I had to go through all those other months in order to get to that turnaround.
Nice. Wow. That's, well, I'd say that's a pretty big testimonial right there.
Yeah.
That's a nice turnaround. Um, for someone listening or watching this podcast who will never get 24 hours with Kevin, he's only going to do this for so long, as we all know. And when it stops, the only fly on the wall training is going to be a book with all the write-ups, all the that we did after we did our fly on the wall training. So for someone who never gets that day with Kevin, what is one practice, one ritual, one shift in thinking that you would impart to them today? Something you learned from your fly on the wall that you might impart to someone who will never get the chance to do that with Kevin.
Whatever your main focus is, if you're trying to grow a business, you're doing something like me, like trading, or, you have some specific goal or desire you're going for, ask yourself with everything in your life, material, persons, relationships, everything in your life, even the physical items around you, is this helping me or hindering me in that pursuit? Because that's what I did. And it wasn't really anything that Kevin said. It was my mind picking up how he operated and seeing, that his life is very fixated on the targets. And when I got home, I was like, I need to get rid of this. I need to stop this business. I need to sell this thing. I need to, stop talking to these people. And I need to really focus and really be. I kind of went through a period of like isolation where I was just like, let me just focus on my own thing, my own head. I don't need social media. I don't need to talk to a million people. I, really just narrowed my field of vision to what was most important. And it's easy at that point to see what needs to be eliminated from your life.
Powerful. I don't that's it. We're done. That's it. I mean that the power of focusing on the goal. And I think a part of what you said there is something that Kevin has iterated so many times is you have to know what you want. And when you know what you want, you're going to eliminate from your life everything that keeps you away from that. Everything that is a hindrance to that. But I think so many of us for periods of our life are wandering generalities. And we have a little bit of this, a little bit. We give this person our energy, we give that pursuit our energy. We're scattered, and we're not focused. And
Yeah.
so it sounds like you picked up on that focus.
Well, you're the culmination of the five people in your circle. And what I came to realize was that those five people could be people you see only online, you talk to online, people that are on social media, you follow their
Yep.
pages,
Yep.
people you watch on YouTube, you're listening to their content.
Yep.
If you actually looked at the hours behind the most, the top five, you might actually even be surprised that you're spending that much time with that specific person. And then you can start to structure your life differently and say, well, I'm getting a lot of value out of this person. So I'm going to listen to their content more.
Yeah.
This person's
Mhm.
helping me with trading. I'm really going to
Yep.
dive in deep to everything he says.
Yeah.
That's what
Absolutely.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I do that too, especially with some of the business things I'm doing. There's a few people I follow that, that's who you want to commune with. That's who you want to be your mastermind. If they're putting out good stuff that's putting you in the right direction,
Yeah.
be careful what you fill your mind with. Amy, thank you so much. Is there anything you would like to share? Anything I didn't think to ask? Or
I
anything else you'd
think
like to comment on?
with Kevin, he's very flexible and amenable to changes, whatever might come into your life. Don't be like
Mhm.
so rigid that you're like, no, I can only do it one way. Be really open to opportunities that come in that don't look like the form you were expecting. And don't worry about the time. Really just it's been like 8 months since my fly on the wall.
Mhm.
Each month there's like a stacking compound effect of my peace of mind. It's like,
Wow.
stop worrying about this, stop worrying about that, and certain things come up. It's like, oh yeah, but it'll work out, don't worry about the time. Just enjoy the process, enjoy the
Good.
journey, and don't critique yourself so harsh. Really give yourself grace.
Wonderful. Amy Nicholas, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you so much for sharing your insights and your wisdom from
Thank you for
this
having me.
great experience. It was my pleasure. Hope you all enjoyed this interview. More content like this to come, 2 videos coming out per week. And do me a favor, if you like this content, give me a like on the video, subscribe, and smash the notification bell. Otherwise, YouTube will hide my videos from you and won't tell you about them. So please do that. Give us a comment. Let us know if you have any further questions for Amy or for questions for me. I love you. We'll see you next time.